I'm trying to read a list in my head. There was several things around states where they tried to move some initiatives, very small initiatives, but basically, yeah, until Prop 215 and the cascade that then created in various regions, there wasn't really a conversation being had. And obviously, there's a famous interaction that I remember reading of between your dad and Dennis Perron about the conversation of 215 and whether it went far enough. And obviously, Dennis was an advocate of all cannabis is, medicinal. And then sort of Jack arguing, well, how can hemp, as it were, in terms of the industrial applications, be medicinal? And I'm just interested as to what you think he would have thought if he could somehow just look at the industry today and yeah, would he be happy with it? I guess I know there'd be certain aspects, but sort of overall,
Well, it's a
too big of a question.
No, it's not so much that it's too big. From a position of access becoming more available, he would be happy. The fact that there are companies and people, individuals that are building companies, taking care of their families, creating commerce, these things he would be happy about, and there would be probably an "I told you so" there.
Mhm.
On the regulation side, the way that governments are implementing access, my father would be just as vocal, if not more vocal, than he had ever been in his life. Um, about the injustice of how do we create recreational freedom, medicinal freedom, but we still have incarceration and you know uh, taking people's lives away, taking people's families away when they're in a dry area of the United States or anywhere else in the world that allows access and use, but still creates the potential of prosecution and incarceration for misusing it as they define. And I think that he would be extraordinarily vicious with regards to continuing the fight. The problem that we have as a society at the moment is that so many of the younger consumers, and I'm talking about those that became of age shortly after Prop 215 through the development of social access through co-ops and such here in the United States, and then through the medical spaces, is that many of them have grown up with access, and they didn't start their lives as advocates or activists, and they've just been consumers. So their consuming life has always been there as if it was their right, and don't understand that there was a fight that helped to create that. And they don't necessarily see the difference between maybe some of the difficulties that they experience now with having to go through dry counties or still leaving opportunities to be prosecuted. They don't look at it the same ways that my father and the Dennis Perrons and the Ed Adaires and the Steve D'Angelos and all of these folks that I grew up with. How they not only fought, they risked their freedoms to fight for this freedom. And so the younger generations are, they're posting on social media. They're developing companies that to them, for the most part, cannabis is legal, but they don't understand that it's truly not. It is. We are being allowed access because we are paying for that access. We have paid access to cannabis. We don't have free access to cannabis. And in many places, you can't even grow cannabis and freely give it away.
Yeah.
You can't share your cannabis. You can grow it for yourself, but you can't share it. You can't gift it. You can't this it. You can't, there's all of these different, and nothing matches. There's no consistency. There's no, there's nothing. So the voices of those who are now within the space that are becoming, mid-20s, early 30s, early 40 adults are not the activists that the world needs right now in order to continue fighting. Now,
Mm.
it's not to say that it can't become it, because I believe that, as the extortionary practices of state, local, and federal governments become more prevalent and more repressive, that those in the space will eventually stand back up and find their voices once again. I hope they read my father's book and realize that there is far more than just the consumption of cannabis that is the reason for the suppression of cannabis, and that it is so much more important than just the access to being able to smoke it. That is the future of what it is that we fought for to begin with. And once that realization, once that story becomes part of their lives, that maybe those voices will rise again. And that is my hope, is that, that there is that activist voice, not a politician's voice, not an appeasement voice, but one that truly activates the social needs of not, when I say community, the cannabis community used to be my neighborhood in the San Fernando Valley. You know, that's how I grew up, or whether it was in Thousand Oaks. But now the cannabis community is global. The friends that I have in this space are in multiple countries. The experiences that I have the ability to participate in are in multiple countries. Most recently, obviously, Germany, where we're going to be doing the Jack Herer Cup for the second time, and now in a post-legal Germany, which is going to be extraordinary in the middle of June of next month. And it's really important that people don't just look at what cannabis is and what the best of the flower is or the best concentrate, but where's the best intentions? Where are the loudest voices? Where are the voices that are still standing up for the fight that still needs to be had, and the fights that we're still going through? And we need to be more interactive within the space of continuing to educate one another on all of its possibilities. And unfortunately, including the possibility of still being incarcerated for it.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to fight for the alternative. We need to fight for its freedom. We need to fight to not be incarcerated anywhere in the world for this plant. We see bits and pieces of it, but they're more. They're put in place right now more to subdue us from having the voice or needing the voice. Like, oh, Germany's becoming legal, we don't need to fight anymore. That's not the truth, because now what Germany's going to do is they're going to realize that, there's going to be all of these new things that are going to come about that maybe they didn't think about or didn't experience and hadn't witnessed. And then all of a sudden there's going to be, oh, well, there's going to be a change to the regulation. There's going to be a change to this. There's going to be regulation on, and the cycle will happen again where the narrative will be, fear and control rather than freedom and facts.
Mm-hmm.
And the voice of this community still needs to find itself or reconnect with its roots, and let those who were the legacy folks, the founding fathers of the founding mothers of this space, may their stories influence them to then hopefully find their voice and to become what it is that we continuously need in order to find a future with this plant. Mm. And I think that is, as much as I enjoy these interactive shows where the cannabis community comes together by the thousands or tens of thousands and interact with one another and enjoy music and enjoy food and enjoy commerce and enjoy telling stories, there has to be a level of interaction and vocal contributions to restructure the narrative of who we are and what we truly represent, not just a commercial number of gross revenue in a market that is participating in the government's being able to build a new highway or fill a few potholes. But how do we build a new future? How do we expand the community? You know, those are the things that we need to find our voice in order to be a part of.
100%, man. 100%. So eloquently and well put. You touched on some wonderful points there. I think pressure makes diamonds. And I think, as you say, the generation, I'm 36, I consider the generation beneath me. I mean, it's slightly different, obviously, here in UK and Europe, because obviously we haven't had the past 10 years plus kind of in the US where things have, there's been this potential, you know, all the states cascading to what are we on 20 something now, rec states, 30.
More than 28.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Quite a few have stacked on it since last November. And the November before. But yeah, so they're living in this world where it's an inevitability to them almost. Like you say, there is no reason to fight. I said exactly the same thing. I know I take a lot of flack from I think it's like 3% now. I did lose 1% of my German listeners. Sorry, guys. I know I've spoke down on Germany recently, but it's only because I love you and I'm just trying to get you to understand exactly what Dan's just said there, which is the kind of literally what Dennis and Jack were having the debate about 215 is, does it go far enough? And yeah, you can say, oh, well, that's the little bit now, little victory. And yeah, they'll tweak it and they'll tweak it and they'll tweak it. But in what direction and who will benefit? And I think the difference now of the youth of where that Jack grew up in, you know, people like Mila Janssen and that kind of generation of people that operated within kind of this space at all levels, their opposition was the prohibitionists in the state or the international governments, as it were, you know what I mean? And then there's this new enemy that's kind of there, and they hide in that culture and go, yeah, we want legalization, yeah, and because they want to exploit the other people at that rally and go, yeah, we'll sell you the weed, and it's going to be 50 quid an eighth, then 100 quid an eighth because of inflation, and then I'm going to charge you this, and I'm going to, do you know, and so there's this new group of people, and so I've been saying it for 2 years now, folks. I'm anti-legalization. I'm pro-decriminalization and descheduling. Cannabis shouldn't be a scheduled drug. It's a plant. If you then want to schedule drugs, it should be Sativex, Nablalone, Epidiolex, the actual drugs derived from cannabis that are pharmaceuticalized products. But cannabis, the language of it, it's a fucking plant. Do you know what I mean? That's what we should look at. I always use the analogy of homosexuality was criminalized here in the UK. Literally, you'd get chemically castrated and shit, and you could lawfully lose your job and be basically beaten by police, and many were, and there was an incredible amount of prejudice. Yet that was then legalized in the sense of the old parlance of legalized. They went and ripped up the law and went, you can't do that anymore. Granted, again, folks, there was a lot of bigotry, discrimination, homophobia in the UK. It still, frankly, is in a lot of places. But my point I'm trying to make is they didn't legislate that and go, you can hold hands between 7 and 7. You can kiss 3 times a day if you've got a license. Do you know, you can be gay in this area, but you're not allowed to be gay over there. None of that came into the equation. If it was wrong to discriminate against them because of their sexuality, their proclivities, and their identity, how is that not a protected characteristic in cannabis? I know people say, oh, drugs are a choice. No, mate, I've been consuming cannabis for 20 years with my mental health and physical conditions. If I stop taking cannabis, my health goes off a fucking cliff. That isn't a choice. You don't then go to an asthmatic. Your asthma inhaler is a choice. You don't go to somebody that uses crutches and go, those crutches are a choice. It's something an individual has found that betters their existence. And fuck you for trying to regulate it. Whether you be someone trying to profiteer from my existence or somebody trying to prohibit it, you don't belong in my life. The only conversation, if a conversation is worth having, is that we shouldn't be criminalizing anybody. If it can be accepted in any point as medicine, then it should all be medicine. If it can be accepted at any point as commerce, it should be commerce for all. Exactly this. This is why I always state that people like your dad and others, that when they said legalization, it was a different word to what is being used now. Legalization, as I call it, neo-legalization, because I love the prefixes to break up language because it helps define these things. is corporate legalization. It's exactly what you said. It's, yeah, there may have been some grassroots movements in Germany that were involved, but it was mainly the international cabal of corporates that moved that forward, that paid for the lobbyists. Like what's happening here in the UK, it's none of us a lot that are involved in lobbying. It's all the corporations, it's all the organizations, all the self-appointed regulators and
Yeah.
governors of our industry. It's there aren't voices for us. I think, as you say, there needs to be this pressure for the youth to rise. I accept my position is I'm literally going. I've read championed and was lucky enough to be alive, but quite small, when a lot of the big activism was happening in the world. I've learned that. I'm carrying the torch and I'm going to pass it to the next gen because I understand. It's like the Israeli proverb, probably isn't Israeli, but I'm not going to get into that. But plant date trees. Do you know what I mean? That you do something that is for the next generation explicitly. You give up a part of your existence to better theirs. And I feel that the people above us that kind of screwed over, the Jack Harris that screwed over, I'm not going to list again for my legal protection anybody else that I'm thinking of right now, several other legacy individuals whose names have become bastardized in recent years. Um, the that's been sort of captured to Pied Piper us away from the idea of freedom and liberty. That it has stopped us from. Oh, we don't need to gather. We'll get together on 420 and we'll just have a big smoke. But none of us will get together and really understand the language and talk about that. Yeah, you're allowed to carry your 10 grams. You're allowed to carry 10 grams. Yeah, but why? Why can't we have 20? Why can't we have 25? Why can't we have 50? Why isn't there a limit at all? Why are you saying, oh, I'm allowed to grow 2 plants at home? Why are you saying it? Do you get what I'm saying? It's that's what activism is to me. This is the true civil disobedience. But it's the flame gets destroyed by the accelerant that is poured onto the corporate fire. So it looks vast and warm and inviting, and everybody glows around it. And there's a few activists, like you say, that are going, but we can have a better world. We could literally not have to have these carbon credits and all of this extra tax, and we could deal with this and this and this. And we have all of an idea, like I said, a theory for the solution, but now more evidence of the science, like graphene batteries made from cannabis. And they're like, la, 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 la. But there is a few companies that now put money into that and it is moving, but it's being so hidden. Yet every day, children are dying from mining lithium. It's like we've got, well, I'm not seeing it. No, I can't see it. Where? I don't see it. It's not happening. I'm just going to go into the shop and buy my weed and pay my 30% tax. And then
Yeah.
you got driving home on your roads with your shit potholes. Like you said, they're like, where's the money then going? If you could see it. Whereas I guarantee you, when Dave, your local Dave, used to buy your weed from, guess what Dave would do with your money? He'd pay for his kids' dinner. He'd pay his bills. That would then go into the local economy. Back in the day, as you said, there was a simpatico, there was a natural understanding, a sense of culture and community, then heritage, because we were bonded by not being the oppressor. We were oppressed. So it didn't matter your proclivities or your other eccentricities. Were you cannabis? Yeah, you cool. You're one of us. Don't be a dick. Come have a smoke. Do you know what I mean? Whereas that idea is so lost. Like I said, go to your average cannabis conference and try and smoke weed. Do you know what I mean? Stand up and see the giant signs. Cannabis is prohibited. You can't come and smoke. And then none of them consume cannabis. I'm not saying you have to consume cannabis. I'm just saying if you don't listen to cannabis people when you're making these rules, you're going to do what Germany did and go 25 grams. When, again, we buy in 28. It just feels like they've deliberately done it. You're not allowed to smoke cannabis in most public areas until 7 p.m. at night. Again, 420. I feel like they just haven't taken into consideration us, or the opposite they have, and they're trying to undercut the culture and go, oh, well, we're doing this to get rid of dealing so that street dealers are not selling ounces. But then if it's in 25s, that means you're not going to be buying quarters or eighths or halves. Again, these are units of measure that, despite the evolution of the standardization of metric from imperial, that's an identifier. So we all joke when we say, like, what's 1/8 of? There's all the memes and everything. We have all of this heritage that I feel that this neo-legalization is, like you say, it's plastering over and it's becoming global. Because you see it lands in a country, and this country has just announced that they're going to legalize the industrial applications and medical use of cannabis. It's always the same script, and then it's the same companies. Oh, there's Curaleaf are going to be importing. Oh, do you know what I mean? It's the same people, it feels, and none of them are our people. And I'm not saying it should be such a divisive thing. Like I said, I believe that we could synergistically develop a better world together. I don't know business. I don't know how to make quarterly profits go up. I don't know how to deal with, your HR resolution issues or what. I don't know any of that. But you know, fucking weed. You've got your cannabis company, you've got all this stuff. And you see it in the States. I mean, look at the stocks on any cannabis company anywhere in the world. Do you know what I mean? In the pump and dump. And you go, there isn't the confidence, there isn't the belief in these things. And most people you speak to off the record, or that I speak to off the record, we won't be here in 2 years, 5 years. Their intention is to get bought up, to get conglomerated, to get made into one of five,
Pardon me.
what part of one of five groups that own the world. Do you know what I mean? They're waiting for their paycheck, and they get all of the spots. They're on the news whenever we're talking about it. They're writing the big articles. They get the big features. They're the key speakers at expos. Do you know what I mean? And like
Control and supply.
mm,
Those are the
yeah,
two important things.
man, and they're efficient. They're fucking efficient. I'll give them that.